Welcome to Forbidden Texts. What you are about to see may shock you. It may surprise you, but will definitely challenge everything you thought you knew. Stick around until the end to discover the forbidden knowledge that they don't want you to have.
They never tell you this part. Spiritual awakening isn't some peaceful, love, and light experience where everything clicks into place overnight. No, it rips your life apart. It burns away everything you thought you were. Your job, your relationships, your beliefs, even your sense of self crumble. And the worst part, you're left standing in the wreckage, completely alone, wondering if you've made a terrible mistake. Welcome to Forbidden Texts, where we explore ancient knowledge and forgotten wisdom. Because what you're about to discover is the truth no one warns you about. If you're feeling like your entire world is falling apart, like you don't fit in anymore, like you're losing your grip on everything that once felt familiar, you're not crazy. You're waking up, and it's going to force you to rebuild your entire life. But here's the thing. What's waiting on the other side is something most people never get to experience. Stay with me. Because once you see this, there's no going back. The shock of awakening one day, everything makes sense. The next, nothing does. It happens fast, like a switch flipping inside you. One moment, you're playing by the rules, chasing success, fitting in, doing what you're supposed to do. Then, something cracks. Maybe it's a random event, a book you stumble upon, a conversation that lingers too long in your mind. Or maybe it's just a quiet moment when you realize none of this is real. You look around, and suddenly, the world feels fake. The conversations feel scripted. The ambitions you once had seem hollow. The people around you, your family, your friends, your coworkers, they're still trapped in the illusion. But you can't unsee it. At first, it feels like an awakening, a revelation, a sense of breaking free. But what comes next? That's the part no one talks about. The destruction. Because once you wake up, your old life starts to fall apart. And it's not by accident. It has to. The identity crisis, here's the first thing to go. You. Or at least, the version of you that you spent years carefully constructing. The personality you built to fit in. The opinions you adopted just to belong. The labels you wore so you wouldn't feel lost. They all start peeling away. And then the real horror hits. If none of that was real, then who the hell are you? This is where most people panic. They try to run back to the familiar, grasping at old routines, forcing themselves to care about the things they used to. But it doesn't work. Because once your mind expands, it doesn't shrink back. You're left staring at yourself in the mirror, recognizing the face but not the person behind it. The job you used to take pride in feels meaningless. The conversations you once enjoyed seem empty. The goals you once had, they feel like someone else's. And no one around you understands. The emotional roller coaster they say awakening is blissful. That's a lie. At first, it's pure chaos. The highs are exhilarating, moments where you feel deeply connected to something greater, where you see the world in ways you never could before. But the lows, they hit like a freight train. Everything you've buried, every fear, every suppressed emotion, every uncomfortable truth comes rushing to the surface. And you have to face it. There's no more running, no more distractions, no more numbing yourself with the things that used to keep you asleep. And here's the part that no one wants to hear. It gets worse before it gets better. Because your old life, It won't go quietly. It will fight. The people around you will notice the change, and they won't like it. They'll tell you you're different, that you're being weird, that you're losing yourself. But the truth is, you're finally finding yourself. This is the breaking point. The moment where most people give up, retreat back to their old ways, pretend they never woke up. But if you push through, if you really let go, that's when everything changes. Because on the other side of this destruction is something they never told you about. Something most people will never experience. And in the end, you'll see why it had to happen this way. The breakdown before the breakthrough, you can feel it happening. Everything you once relied on, the routines, the relationships, the sense of purpose, it's slipping through your fingers like sand. And no matter how hard you try to hold on, it keeps falling away. This is the part no one prepares you for. The collapse. The point where you realize that the life you spent years building wasn't yours to begin with. It was a script handed to you, a set of expectations from society, family, and culture. And now, that script is burning. You're standing in the middle of the wreckage, looking around, wondering what the hell you're supposed to do now. And the worst part, the world keeps moving like nothing happened. You go to work, but it feels like you're just playing a role. You see your old friends, but you can't connect with them the same way. You try to find meaning in the things that used to bring you happiness, but they don't hit like they used to. Everything feels off. Like you're trapped between two worlds, one that no longer makes sense and one that hasn't fully formed yet. This is where most people break. Because the urge to go back is strong. The mind wants safety, familiarity. It whispers, just forget all this. Go back to normal. Fit in again. And some do. They force themselves back into their old lives, pretending the awakening never happened. But deep down, they know. They've seen behind the curtain. They know the truth. And that truth will never stop haunting them. Why comfort becomes unbearable? Here's the paradox. The life you once found comfortable now feels unbearable. You used to be fine with small talk, mindless entertainment, working for a paycheck, chasing status, numbing yourself with distractions. But now, it feels like a prison. You try to sit through a conversation about weekend plans or celebrity gossip, but inside, you're screaming. You watch people obsess over meaningless things, status, validation, approval, and you wonder how you never noticed it before. You feel like an outsider in your own life. And it's terrifying, because if you don't belong in your old world anymore, where do you belong? When the mind resists the soul, this is the war inside you. The part where your old programming fights back. Your mind is desperate for certainty, for stability, for things to make sense again. But your soul, it's pulling you into the unknown, into a future that hasn't been written yet. And that's the scariest part of all, realizing that there is no roadmap. No one can tell you what comes next. This is why so many people get stuck. They cling to spiritual ideas but never fully let go of the old world. They try to balance both, one foot in their old life, one foot in awakening. But that never works. Because you can't have awaken. You either step fully into the unknown, or you chain yourself back to what's safe. And here's the real question. Do you really want safety? Because if you've made it this far, part of you already knows safety is just another illusion. And what's waiting on the other side of all this? That's something most people will never experience. Keep going. Because this is where things start to change. The isolation and loneliness phase. No one tells you that awakening comes with exile. One day, you're surrounded by people, friends, family, coworkers, the ones you used to laugh with, vent to, share your life with. The next, it feels like they're speaking a language you no longer understand. And worse, you realize they don't understand you anymore either. It starts subtly. The conversations feel forced. The topics that used to excite you now feel empty. You sit in a room full of people and feel like you don't belong. Like you're an observer, watching from the outside. Then it gets worse. People start distancing themselves. They tell you, you've changed. They look at you differently, with confusion, with judgment. Some even get angry because your awakening threatens their comfort. You're a reminder of something they don't want to face. So they push you away. And just like that, the people you once relied on disappear. Why awakening feels like losing everyone at first? You'll think something is wrong with you. That maybe you're being too distant, too strange, too difficult to be around. You'll try to reconnect, to shrink yourself down again, to make yourself more digestible. But it won't work. Because you're not who you used to be. You can't pretend anymore. You can't unsee what you've seen. And trying to fit back into a world that no longer makes sense, it's suffocating. So you isolate. Not because you want to, but because the alternative is unbearable. You'll spend nights alone, questioning everything. You'll sit in silence, wondering if you made a mistake. You'll scroll through old photos, remembering when life felt easier, when you still had a place in the world. But here's the truth. You never lost them. You outgrew them. The illusion of separation loneliness is the price of waking up. But here's what no one tells you. It's only temporary. Because as much as it feels like you're alone, you're not. The old connections had to fade. The conversations that no longer served you had to end. The people who were only meant to be part of your old life had to leave. Why? Because you're making space. For what? You'll see. The art of surrendering to the unknown, this is the hardest part. Letting go. Not just of people, but of control, of certainty, of the desperate need to understand where this is all leading. The mind wants answers. It wants to know what's next.
A quick message. This space has become something truly special for many of us. A community of people on a shared journey of spiritual growth, healing, and awakening. Your comments and stories inspire me every day, and it's clear there's so much more we can create together, especially since this path can feel lonely at times. That's why we've created a spiritual space on Patreon, a sanctuary for deeper connection, exclusive content, and meaningful conversations with others from this channel who share your journey. Together, we can build something uplifting, authentic, and spiritually powerful. If this resonates with you and you'd like to be part of something bigger, whatever you're going through, you'll find the link in the description or pinned in the comments. Your membership not only helps support the channel, but also helps grow this beautiful community. Let's create something amazing together.
When will this get easier? When will I feel normal again? But here's the thing. There is no normal anymore. The old life is gone. The old self is dead. And the only way forward is to trust something you can't see yet. This is where most people break. They try to force things back to the way they were. They chase comfort, distraction, anything to stop feeling lost. But if you can sit in the discomfort, if you can let yourself fully dissolve, something happens. Something shifts. Because on the other side of isolation, something is waiting. Something most people never get to experience. And if you keep going, you're about to see what it is. Rebuilding from the ashes everything you once were is gone. The old beliefs, the old identity, the old attachments, they've all crumbled. And now, you're standing in the ruins, staring at the emptiness where your old life used to be. Most people never make it this far. They get stuck in the isolation, in the grief of losing their old world. But you didn't turn back. You let it all fall away. Now comes the part no one talks about. The part after the destruction. This is where you start again. Not by rebuilding what was lost, but by creating something entirely new. Something real. Something aligned with who you actually are. And it starts with the most important question. Who is that? The rebirth of your true self. The truth is, you were never that old version of yourself. That was just a mask. A collection of expectations, conditioning, and survival mechanisms designed to make you fit into a world that was never meant for you. Now, without that mask, you get to see what's underneath. This is where the real work begins. The part where you start choosing, consciously, what stays and what goes. Do you still believe what you were taught to believe? Do you still want the things you used to chase? Do you still resonate with the people you once surrounded yourself with? Or were all of those things just illusions, holding you in a life that was never truly yours? For the first time, you get to decide. Not based on programming, not based on fear, but based on truth. This is where you begin to align. The new you, mind, body, and soul. You'll notice something strange happening. The things you used to crave, status, approval, distraction, temporary pleasure, start to lose their grip. They feel shallow, meaningless. In their place, a new kind of hunger appears. A hunger for depth, for wisdom, for something real. You'll start caring about things you never noticed before. The way your body feels, the energy of the spaces you enter, the people you allow into your life, the things you consume, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And because of this, your life starts shifting, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. Maybe you leave a job that no longer aligns with you. Maybe you start creating, expressing, finding your true voice. Maybe you move, cut ties, burn bridges, take risks. Not because you're running, not because you're lost, but because, for the first time, you're choosing. This is how the new life begins. Attracting aligned people and opportunities. Remember that loneliness, that feeling of losing everyone, of being an outsider. That was never the end of the story. It was a clearing, a necessary void. Because now, something unexpected starts happening. New people appear, and they're different. They see you, truly see you, in a way the old world never did. Conversations feel alive again. You meet people who reflect the real you, the one you had to fight so hard to uncover. And it doesn't stop there. Opportunities arise that align with this new path. Doors open that you never could have imagined before. The more you align with your truth, the more life aligns around you. This isn't luck. This isn't coincidence. It's the result of breaking free, of tearing down the false self, of walking away from everything that wasn't real. And now you get to see what was waiting for you all along. Because this is just the beginning. The integration process. You've made it through the fire. You've torn down the false self, walked through the loneliness, and rebuilt something real from the ashes. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think awakening is a destination. That once you've seen the truth, once you've stepped into this new version of yourself, the journey is over. But the truth, it never ends. Spiritual awakening isn't about escaping the world. It's about learning how to exist within it, without losing yourself again. And that's where the real challenge begins. Balancing the spiritual with the material. At first, you'll be tempted to reject everything. Society, structure, money, ambition. It will all seem fake, like a trap. You might feel like you don't belong here anymore, like you were meant for something greater, something beyond this physical world. But this is where many people fall into a new illusion. The belief that spirituality means detaching from reality. It doesn't. You're not here to escape. You're here to integrate, to take what you've learned and apply it in the real world, to bring awareness into the places where most people are still asleep. You're here to live consciously, not just in meditation, not just in isolation, but in the middle of life itself. That means learning how to function in a world that still operates on the old system. That means making peace with people who will never understand your journey. That means using your awareness, not as a reason to disconnect, but as a tool to navigate the chaos. Because true mastery isn't found in avoidance. It's found in presence. The art of living consciously, you'll notice the patterns now. The way people live on autopilot, the way the world distracts, numbs, seduces. You'll see the mechanisms behind society, the way fear is used to control, the way people chase illusions, the way the system keeps them asleep. But here's the challenge. What do you do with this knowledge? You could sit in judgment, look down on those who haven't woken up yet. But that's just another ego trap. You could become bitter, frustrated that the world isn't changing fast enough. But that only chains you to suffering. Or you could embody the truth. Quietly, powerfully, not by forcing, not by preaching, but by being, by showing what it looks like to live differently, by creating, building, sharing, aligning your life with something greater, by being proof that awakening isn't just an idea, it's something that changes everything. Because when you do that, people notice. Becoming a guide for others, you'll start to see it. The ones who are waking up, the ones who feel lost, disconnected, searching for something they can't quite name. And you'll recognize that look in their eyes, because you've been there. But this time, you're not the one drowning. You're the one who made it to the shore. And without even trying, you'll become a guide. Not by telling people what to do, not by convincing them of anything, but by showing them what's possible. Because real transformation isn't loud. It doesn't need to be forced. It's contagious. And just like that, the cycle continues. More people wake up. More people step into their truth. The ripple effect grows. And all of it, every loss, every breakdown, every moment of isolation, was leading you to this. The new life you never expected. You didn't just rebuild your life. You built something unrecognizable from what came before. And looking back, you'll realize it had to happen this way. The destruction, the pain, the loneliness, it wasn't punishment. It was initiation. Because most people never make it here. They stay trapped in the illusion, afraid to let go, afraid to lose what they know. But you walked through the fire, and now you're standing on the other side. Not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to be. Conclusion, the life you never saw coming. You weren't supposed to wake up. Not in a world designed to keep you asleep. Not in a system built on distraction, control, and illusion. But somehow, you did. And because of that, nothing can ever be the same again. You've seen what most people will never see. You've faced what most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You've lost, surrendered, let go of everything false, only to find something real on the other side. And now, you exist in a different reality. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You see through the lies. You no longer chase what doesn't fulfill you. You're no longer controlled by fear, by validation, by the expectations of people still trapped in their own illusions. And that is true freedom. Why it had to happen this way looking back, it all makes sense now, doesn't it? The loss, the destruction, the isolation. It wasn't random. It wasn't some cruel punishment. It was necessary. It was the fire that burned away the false self, the illusion, the old world that could never contain the person you were meant to become. And that's why most people never get here. Because the cost is everything. But if you make it through, if you let go of what was never real, you gain something most people will never even imagine. Clarity, purpose, freedom. You don't belong to the system anymore. You don't belong to the expectations placed on you. You don't belong to your past, your programming, your old identity. You belong to something deeper now, something true. This is just the beginning. Here's the thing about awakening. It never stops. There's always another layer, another illusion to break, another version of yourself waiting to be discovered. And the deeper you go, the more you realize this journey isn't about reaching a destination. It's about becoming. Most people will spend their lives avoiding this path, afraid to lose what they think they have. But you already know the truth. There was nothing to lose, because everything real, it was waiting for you on the other side. And now, there's no going back.